Good afternoon, and thank you for joining Conversations for College Success. I'm here with a dear friend, Allie, and we've been talking about what were our experiences after we graduated college and in our first and or second jobs. And with that being the case, one of the questions I would like her to answer, because we had such a rich conversation, what advice do you wish you had received before you started your first job? So, Allie, would you mind sharing with the group some of the information you had shared with me?
I think a key piece of information I wish I had was that every black face is not a black voice. And by that I mean just because a person is of the same race doesn't mean that they're going to be your personal advocate. Sometimes you just don't hit it off, or they may be jealous of you for whatever reason. But on the same in the same token, I also think that you just can't dismiss others that are not of the same race, because those could be your strongest allies, the strongest advocates.
Absolutely. And you might think to yourself, why would that be? Now, one of the things I shared with students when I was working with them in college is that you have 4 years to figure out how to read people. And that becomes real important, primarily because, as my friend Allie just said, not everyone is your friend. Not everybody's your enemy either. But you need to be able to discern between the two. And that comes from experience. And hopefully, your first experience with determining that is not your first job. Some of the things that I've seen, people are jealous of new people joining because they think they have a leg up, or they think they're going to show a higher caliber of person than they are, or that they have skills that they don't have. And that can then lead to them trying to sabotage that person, and primarily because they just don't want competition. They want to be the only, or they want to be the special, or whatever that is. With that being the case, if you have the ability to read people, then you'll know who's being honest and sincere, and quite frankly, who's blowing smoke. And you want to make sure that you build relationships with people who are going to help you to be successful. And again, as we've just shared, that doesn't mean it's everybody. So it doesn't matter. It can be you have the same race or you're different races, etc. The reading of people is what really makes the difference. And with that being the case, my friend Allie just shared a situation where someone thought that by working extra hours, that comes from back in the day. You were considered a dedicated employee, made the difference. However, nowadays, that isn't looked upon that way. That's looked upon as if, okay, this person does not have good time management skills, or they're playing around during work time and they have to come back in the evenings to get their job done. You don't want those reputations. Now, I think Allie has some suggestions for you as to what you can do ahead of time so something like that does not happen to you.
I think that the employees and their supervisors, you need to be on the same page as to what are your expectations and how will I be evaluated. Because what you may think when you're doing a good job or you think is the right approach, if it's not the right approach, no matter what you do, it's not going to work for you. And you need to come up with suggestions to present to the supervisor. Don't ask the supervisor, what do you want me to do? You should say, this is how my approach. What do you think about it?
Absolutely, because that shows that you have spent some time thinking about what the assignment is and a variety of approaches and which one works better for them. Now, they may say, whatever works for you works for me, or they may have a preferred direction or idea that they want you to follow up on. Either way, you win, whether it's yours or theirs, because now you know what direction to go in and how to be successful in that environment and in that approach. One of the other things I'm going to share is I've noticed at different organizations, some people come in early and get started working, other people come in on time and then they go and get coffee or whatever they go and get. And I can remember having a discussion with my father about, oh my gosh, I can't believe these people come in and waste all this time. And one of the things he had shared with me is you need to go and get included in some of those conversations. That is how people are getting to know each other and building relationships. I had never saw it that way. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, let me start doing some of that. And some of it was when they came in the morning. Sometimes it was just periodic events in the evening after at the end of work they'd go downstairs for drinks because there was a like a bar and grill downstairs, and so I started going. not because I wanted to drink, more because I wanted to get to know people. What I found out was, oh my gosh, the conversations were so different down there. You found out who was friends with who was helping who was doing whatever. So all kinds of things that have taken me, I don't know how long to learn, I learned at this event. And I'm like, okay, I guess I have to go to a few more of these, figure out who knows what and who can be helpful and who isn't helpful. But in terms of who knows who, that really is critical. One of the things that you have to be aware of is not that you should be talking about people to begin with, but you certainly don't want to talk about someone who's friends with someone else, because that information go directly back to that person, whether you meant it to or not. Now, by the same token, I've used it the other way. There's information I want delivered, and so I make sure I tell the person, so they'll go back and tell their friend what was said or what was the understanding, whatever that happens to be, so that things can change. I don't know if you had any experiences like that or not, but if you had, would you please share?
I think that when you're having the conversations, you don't want to have, excuse me, anything you're talking about personal. Always try to keep it work related. But, and I don't have a problem saying, repeating what I said, but repeat what I said. Don't add your adjectives or your histrionics to it.
Absolutely. Because when people do share, they tend to share what you said and not necessarily what they said, which could have been encouraging or trying to encourage you to say things that you should not say. So that is very, very true. And that's important for young professionals to be aware of. The other thing that I will share, I'm going to say when we were growing up, we were taught how to communicate with others and build relationships. What I have seen of young people today is they tend to build their relationship off their phone and texting, etc., and not necessarily having a one-on-one conversation. And for me, the one-on-one conversations are the way that I get to know someone not only professionally but personally, which allows me to build that relationship. And then I even had customers that I worked with. And again, the same thing. You learn the customer's name, their wife's name, their children's name. And then when you come in and have a discussion, hey, how are your kids doing? Or what year are they in school? Or whatever that is. And they're, oh my gosh, yeah, I was paying attention. I took notes. So the next time I see you, I'm not asking you the same question. We're moving forward in that relationship. Have you had either any experiences like that or any suggestions for my audience?
I think it's you still have to stay away from certain topics, even when you're getting to know people. You want to stay away from the religion, the political, especially not the political. You can have good conversations talking about general things. Again, try to make it focus, if possible, focus work related. But even outside of that, entertainment, whatever, you can always bring it back to the workplace, be it a movie or a person who's in the entertainment field. You can bring it back to work situations. But I would stay away from giving my political opinions at all, especially nowadays.
I would absolutely agree with you on that. I would even probably stay away from religion as well. However, in talking to and getting to know people, for me, getting to know if they had children because they had pictures on their desk was important, but also if there was a favorite sport that they liked. Because when I was coming up, the majority of my customers were men. And so it was baseball, basketball, or football. Unfortunately, I did not like baseball. It was a little too slow for me. So, what I did do is follow basketball because I enjoyed it, learned football, and then that would usually be how I would break the ice when I would come in. And we wouldn't spend more than 5 minutes, if that, on the conversation. And then we would get down to business and go forward. But for me, it was a way to continue that connection that we had, whatever that was, whether that was sports, their family, some event, etc., because that's how you're able for me to get more business with people because we've built a relationship. And people like to do business with people they like or people who are their friends. And so I always try to be the person who people liked and thought of as a friend. Are there any final thoughts or comments you'd like to share before we end this podcast?
When I did have discussions regarding religion, it wasn't combative. It was more from a help educate me for things that I don't know. I wasn't, raised with a lot of different religions, and I only want to know things so that I won't offend accidentally. Um, you know, you could is it appropriate to say Merry Christmas to certain religions or not? If it's not appropriate, I don't have a problem not saying it. I can say Happy Holidays or just say hi and bye. Doesn't matter.
You're absolutely right as it relates to that. And I can remember, now that I'm really going back a ways, I was president of Junior League of Cleveland, and one of the luncheon sessions that I had was around the various holidays around Christmas. And so we talked about Ramadan. We also talked about Kwanzaa. There was another one too that we talked about that was not only well attended, but very much appreciated because people had the opportunity, as you just said, to ask the questions that they might have been afraid to ask because they didn't want to offend someone. So there often are organizations or events, etc., where you can meet people and have those conversations. And it's set up as a learning experience and a learning environment. And that was actually one of the best meetings that I had held. Very well attended, but the questions were phenomenal. People just wanted to better understand certain religions, certain holidays, those kinds of things. So, like you just said, I'm not offensive to someone. I don't mean to be, but I also don't want to be even out of ignorance. So, very good. Thank you so much. I want to thank my dear friend Allie. She is phenomenal. I so appreciate her advice and information. And she was one of the people that I went to sometimes for information and support and assistance as I had various jobs. I want to thank you for joining Conversations for College Success. I would like to challenge you to share with me either through my email address, of which I'm about to share, or comments from your um, venue that you're using, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, etc. What are some things that you wish you had